All right, Friday has arrived. It's time for Game Week 36 prep. Here we go. Before we run through the L10s, I just wanted to point out that Victor Wembanyama has entered the top tier of players. For the longest time, there were 7 guys that kind of sat way above the rest of the field. That would have been Embiid, Jokic, Luka, SGA, Giannis, Halliburton, and Davis. Wembanyama has played so well over the last month that he has not only joined the top tier, but he is 4th right now in Sorare points per minute at 1.63. Just incredible stretch by Wembanyama, and maybe he's just blossoming into the player he's going to be. He could be the best player in the league, Sorare-wise, by next season. You know, it's funny, in previous weeks, we really haven't had a lot of microcaps to talk about. This week, we seem to have a lot. When I'm estimating my minutes, I'm taking their last 3 games. I'm averaging them. If they didn't play the previous game, I left them out. I'll leave it blank. But we still talk about some of these guys. If they haven't played at least 2 of the last 3 games, I'll leave it blank. They have to qualify to get some minutes. So there will be guys that are left out that you may want to take a look at. We're using kind of where the rotations are at currently rather than for the full season or for the last 10 games. It's just the last 3 games. So players have been out with injury and they're coming back. This can also affect minutes. I feel like this is the best way to gauge where players are at in their rotations currently, but it's certainly not foolproof. 2 L10. We have Orlando Robinson, got 12 minutes last game with Kevin Love out. If Kevin Love continues to sit, I expect Robinson to actually play a little bit. 0.91 a minute, not bad. Let's say he got those 12 minutes. Plug that in and see that his top-end score goes up into the low 20s, which would make him a pretty decent play, except the Heat only have 1 game, so you're really risking it on the fact that Kevin Love's going to be out. Is he going to produce a top-end outcome? Because his bottom-end outcome is basically below 0. But at a 2, you want to take a flyer on this guy, you certainly can. Samanic. Apologies to all my European friends here. Samanic? Whatever. Anyway, he's also a 2L10. He's actually gotten a couple minutes. 2 out of the last 3 games, so he qualified, averaging about 8. Pretty much garbage time, but Utah has been getting just thrashed lately. They're playing terribly. He could see some more time on the floor. They seem to be going to some of their younger guys. Not a great top end, 11 points. But at a 2, you're just looking for somebody to throw in at the end of a lineup that's actually going to play a couple of minutes. If he gets you anything, you're happy probably. 1 game for Utah over the weekend. We go up to the 4 L10 level. Yuta Watanabe is getting some minutes for Memphis. 15 on average over the last 3 games. Memphis actually has 2 games this weekend. Jaren Jackson's already been ruled out. They are really thin again. I think he's going to play some at least for you. Top end, probably not great. Maybe in the low teens. If you have to have somebody to throw in at a 4, he's your guy. 5, we're looking at Kobe Buffkin, so minutes are coming up for him. Average is 17. I think he played a little over 20 maybe their last games. His minutes are definitely coming up with Trae Young out. 5 L10. He can get you top end of 20 with the 17 minutes, so if he gets more than that, you can look a little higher. I think he's your best play at a 5. Only 1 game for the Hawks. If you want a 2-game guy, Malachi Flynn's actually getting time in Detroit because, of course he is. Play the vets who aren't that good instead of your younger guys because Lonnie Williams. If Flynn's going to play, top end in the high teens, I'd say. And for a 5, that's playable. 2 games for Detroit. A couple shots at it. Chris Duarte in Sacramento is getting time. 0.7 points a minute would tell you that he is not a great player. But if he's going to get 20 minutes, he can get you in the high teens. 6 L10. Not terrible, but only 1 game, and it is against the Wolves, so a tough defense. Davis Bertans in Charlotte. Minutes are up from the 12 he was getting consistently every night after the trade. He's averaged 15 over the last 3. 6 L10, top end of his L10 in the low 20s. 2 games, though, for Charlotte, so you got a couple cracks at it. Jake LaRavia, another one taking advantage of all the injuries in Memphis. 7 L10 for him. He actually played a lot the game I went to. Looked okay, but 0.7 a minute would tell you he's not real productive. 23 for a top end, so not awful. 2 games for Memphis. You could certainly do worse at a 7. He is going to get some time, I believe. Anthony Black in Orlando has been playing 25 minutes a night. We've seen this earlier in the season, though. He's just really, really unproductive. 0.62 is so bad. 1 game for Orlando. Yeah, he might get you into the 20s. I don't like it. Just too unproductive of a player. And then you go up to 9, and this is a really nice play. So Jordan Goodwin sat out 2 games, then he played the game I went to against the Wolves. He played, I think, 31 minutes in that game. They've got him pegged. RotoWire's got him pegged tonight for 29. I estimate him at 28. That puts his top end in the mid-30s. This guy's a decent player, 0.93 points a minute, 2 games for Memphis, so I think he's a really nice play at a 9. And that's going to end our micro caps. Let's take a look at pricing. So Bertans is your cheapest. If you want a really cheap option, a 6L10 for $1, you can grab one of his. Watanabe I think is going to play, so if you just need some low L10 guys to throw in, there are some cheap options here for you. Getting up to Buffkin, only has rookie cards, and Black, who only has rookie cards, a little more expensive. Goodwin's popular, over $7. Moving into the mid caps at 11, I've got Nikola Jovic and Monte Morris. Jovic playing a little bit more lately. He actually started last night, played somewhere in the low 20s, I think, but his average over the last 3 is 20 minutes. At that 11 L10, this guy is 0.87 a minute. Given some minutes, I think he can get you close to 30. 1 game for Miami. If you want a little safer option with 2 games, you got Monte Morris. Stepping into a little bigger role with the Wolves, playing closer to 20 minutes most nights now. 11 L10 for him as well. He can get you, high 20s sometimes. 2 games to go for it. So either of those guys, decent plays. 12, you're looking at Landry Shamet and Taylor Hendricks. Shamet's been getting a few more minutes for Washington. He's up into the upper 20s over the last couple games. Only 1 game for the Wizards. Top end in the low 30s. Same with Hendricks, low 30s top end, and he's at 12. He's been getting a lot of minutes. This guy's a rookie. 27 for the Jazz, so they're really trying some of their younger guys. 1 game for the Jazz this weekend. Chris Murray doesn't have a lot of cards floating around. Another rookie, 13 L10. He's had 33 minutes averaged over his last 3 games. They've got a back-to-back against Memphis Friday and Saturday. I put him in the low 30s as well if he's going to get 33 minutes. Unproductive 0.68, and he's probably the 5th option of the 5 guys on the floor almost all the time. But with that many minutes, you can't really ignore him at 13. Going up to 15, we've got KCP in Denver. Back from injury, 33 minutes a night the last couple games. That puts him in the low 30s as well. Only 1 game for Denver, but he's going to get steady minutes. If we want to go up to 17, we've got Zaire Williams, Memphis all banged up, 2 games against Portland. He's been getting about 30 the last couple of games, sometimes a little higher even. Top end in the mid-30s. He's a good play this week. 19, we've got Bol. We talked about him in the first look video. 19 L10. He did get his mid-20s minutes and had a stinker of a game last night, a low-end outlier, so I expect him to bounce back. We got a couple games for Phoenix. If he can continue to play mid-20s, I think you're going to get a nice output from him one of these days. And Cole Anthony's minutes are back up, so he's been in the upper 20s the last couple of games. 19 L10, still pretty low for him. He can get you high 30s. 1 game for Orlando. Then I got 3 at 20. Keegan Murray, obviously, we talked about in the first look video. He was our top play. 20 L10, getting about 35 minutes. He can get you mid-40s, only 1 game for Sacramento, and it is against the Wolves, so tough defense. Duncan Robinson in Miami getting mid-30s minutes the last couple of games. Rozier is back. Highsmith out of the rotation, though. I think Duncan Robinson continues to play. Low 40s if he's going to get that many minutes. Just 1 game for the Heat. Trey Mann. LaMelo Ball still out in Charlotte. We've been thinking he might come back, but he's just out every game. Do they even bring him back? Are they really trying to win? 29 minutes a night for Mann. 20 L10 puts him in that low 40s range as well, and 2 games for Charlotte, so unless Ball comes back, Mann's a good play this weekend. Prices on the lower end of the mid-cap range here go all the way from Shamet down to $2 up to Chris Murray at 12.5. Like I said, Chris Murray does not have a lot of cards rolling around, so spend up on him you can, but probably not worth it as a 0.68 point per minute guy. Really like Jovic, and he's a young player. I wouldn't be afraid to grab one of his at $2.49. I think you're going to be able to use him down the road. Cole Anthony's still decent, under $5. Some options here for you. Higher end of the mid caps, here's what we're looking at. Keldon Johnson and Norman Powell both at 21. Johnson's actually been playing, I think his last 3 average was like 21 minutes, but that included a game where he played 4 minutes, made a dumb foul, got pulled by Popovich and never came back in. And since then, he's played over 30 in the previous 2 games, so I'm going to give him 30 minutes. Actually played a little more than that lately. That would put him in the low 40s, and at 21, you could definitely play that. 1 game for San Antonio. If you want a 2-gamer, I've got Norman Powell in LA. Paul George has been out. If he continues to sit, Powell's minutes have been up in the mid-30s. 21 L10 puts him at about 37 for a top end. If George comes back, I would think Norman Powell probably goes back to his normal range in the mid-20s, which makes him not nearly as good a play. Naz Reid in Minnesota, playing really well. Kyle Anderson out last couple games, and so Naz Reid's minutes over the last 3 have averaged out to about 28. That puts him in that 38 range for a top top end, 2 games for Minnesota. I like Naz Reid. Ben Mathurin with Aaron Nesmith still out and in that mid-30s minutes. Been really good. Put up a bad game last time, but before that had a couple of good ones. I think you can expect him to hit something in the mid-40s again soon if he continues to get in the mid-30s for minutes. 2 games for Indiana over the weekend. Watch Nesmith's injury status. Andre Drummond, we tried to use him a couple weeks ago or last week, I think it was, thinking he might start and get big minutes, and then he didn't. And now the last 2 games, he's had over 30 minutes again, making his average for the last 3 26. Even at 26, he's a great play. High end in the high 40s. If he can get 30 minutes, this guy can get you over 50. 24 L10. The L10 actually went down, so 1 game for the Bulls. It's a risk for sure, but a risk probably worth taking. Marvin Bagley also at 24. His minutes have been a little more consistent, but he's just not as good a player. Yeah, I mean, he can get you in the 40s sometimes. I don't know. I don't like Bagley, but he's in play at least. At 25, you got Jordan Clarkson and Royce O'Neal. Royce O'Neal's actually been playing really big minutes, average of 30, but more like mid-30s recently. So if he gets mid-30s, I think you can put him into the low 40s. 2 games for Phoenix. A lot of that depends, I believe, on whether Eric Gordon comes back or not. Jordan Clarkson, the minutes are pretty safe, although Utah's kind of all over the place right now. They're playing a lot of guys. He's still been getting over 30, which if he does, you can expect him to hit the low 40s sometimes. He's only got 1 game though. Karis LeVert at a 26. He's been getting bigger minutes than his season average. Season average is somewhere in that 26-27 range. He's been up around 32 the last couple games. Means he can hit you in the mid-40s once in a while. 2 games for Cleveland. Garland also with Cleveland, 27 L10. His minutes have stuck right around 36 since they lifted his minutes restriction. That means he's certainly capable of a mid-40s performance. 2 games over the weekend. Another good play. Terry Rozier is back from injury. He played over 30 minutes his first game back, so I've got him at 32. At 32 minutes, this guy's certainly capable of going off. Can get you almost 50. 1 game for the Heat. Still hasn't done it with the Heat, though. He was putting up big numbers with Charlotte. Just hasn't been the same in Miami. Proceed with caution there. Jabari Smith in Houston. He's been averaging 38 minutes over the last 3. He's been their workhorse. 29 L10. He can certainly get you close to 50. Only 1 game for Houston, though. And then at 30, Jordan Poole has been playing kind of like Golden State Jordan Poole. Maybe the Jordan Poole that Washington was expecting to get when they signed him to the big contract this offseason. Many more minutes than his season average. His season average is about 29. He's been playing mid-30s. He plays mid-30s. He can be productive enough. Top end in the mid-40s. Only 1 game for Washington. And then you got Miles Turner, and he's got 2 games. Pretty much the same top end as Poole, but an extra game to deal with, so I like him a little bit better. 28 minutes is right around what he normally averages. I would go with him over Poole, but I think you can play Poole this week if you want to. And let's look at some prices. So Norm Powell's going to be your cheapest because if Paul George comes back, he's probably not in play. Royce O'Neal at $3.39, I think still a really nice play for you. Keldon Johnson, $4.41. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good play. I think that's undervalued right now. Clarkson at $4.74. You could certainly throw him in. That's about where I expect LeVert to be. I think Naz Reid's a good buy here, under $5. And then going up, Mathurin, probably a little too much for me. Garland, I already own. $10 seems pretty expensive for him. I think he's going to go down. Drummond's up a little bit, coming off 2 nice performances. Put up a 35 and a 54. So if he can keep the momentum up, he might be a good play for you, and still $6.44. And I'm realizing I missed Poole and Turner. Poole $4.17. Turner $7.58. And on to your blue chips, guys, for week 36. At 31, we have Jeremy Grant, high end of 47.77. 32, we have Anthony Simons at 51.18, both with 2 games. Up to 34 to get a higher top end score, and that would be Fred VanVleet at 52.54, just 1 game for Houston. If you want to go higher than that 52.54, you've got Kyle Kuzma at 55.49, 1 game for Washington. Then we get to Halliburton at a 38. He's at 63.68 top end, 2 games for Indiana. Obviously a great play this week. And there's nobody that good until we hit 51, and that would be Donovan Mitchell, also 2 games for the Cavs. He's a game time decision today, so I'm not sure what he's dealing with. We got Wemby at 52. Obviously, you got him in right now if you own one. Anthony Davis at 53, projected over 70. 1 game for the Lakers. Jokic, 62, projected mid-70s. Doncic, 64, high 70s with 2 games. Pretty hard to win champion if you don't own one of these guys. Hopefully, you can get enough value from this in your contenders and underdogs to be competitive. Champion's going to be really difficult. Thanks again for watching. Please like the video. Please subscribe. And yes, I've had some questions You see my Brewers hat. I am a baseball fan. We are going to be doing MLB content as well here at Sorare Edge. I have some interesting ideas on how we want to quantify who your best plays are going to be for baseball because the setup is a little different. We don't have the salary cap structure in baseball, but I can certainly give you the advantageous plays for different parks. Different parks play differently. I know which pitchers are good matchups and which are not. So we'll bring you that as the season gets closer. I'll have a little season preview where I give you some guys to look at going into the year, and then each week we'll have breakdowns of who I think the best plays are. All right, thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your weekend. Good luck.